Doctors can disrupt myths. The first thing I want to say is let's say that a doctor has a family member at home that is ill and requires their care. But instead of the doctor or provider, nurse practitioner staying home and providing care for the person who is in their own house, they're supposed to get dressed and get in their car and go to the hospital or whatever facility they provide care to that stranger and take the care of their family member and put them in a long-term care facility, a nursing home, or whatever. Now, I'm not talking about just slacking your job or just like not showing up, but I'm talking about after the situation is no longer acute, you just disregard your family and take care of a stranger. I really wondered like how does that really make sense? Especially considering the fact that we know that when you take someone and when you institutionalize someone or when you ignore them, then they have the feeling of abandonment or they had a feeling of neglect. That's exactly how I felt when it came down to providing care for my mother. So I was like, I really don't think that this really is something that's going to help my mother when she was at the point of need. So I decided to be disruptive and it worked. I'm here with you guys today celebrating. I was successful in submitting my PCOS application. And if anyone has gone through that paperwork, you know how big of a deal that is. Normally, we hire an agency, a credentialing firm, and they charge us a certain amount of money, and we just send them all of our documents, and we just sit and we wait. And then as they ask for additional documents, we send them. However, I decided to do it a different way. I decided to go through the paperwork myself for a couple of reasons. Number one, recently I noticed that some of the people who call us are not necessarily real locums agencies. And I even got an email today from the Montana board talking about scamming of licensees. We have to remember that post pandemic, things are a little bit different online. And I just really didn't trust just handing my credentials over to someone. And I didn't want to pay $350 for someone else to just read. I know how to do that. That was one of the requirements of graduating from medical school. So I went through the paperwork myself. And honestly, what I gained is priceless. I mean, there are so many things on those forms that I learned as far as services that I can offer. House calls, there is actually a designation for that. And something else that I learned, I was under the original impression based on what I was hearing from the agencies that if I was in California, I had to be licensed in every single state where I was going to accept Medicare. That's not the case. You and they showed me the information on the actual Medicare website that you, as long as you are where you are originally credentialed as your office, the patient can be in whatever state necessary. So I just really wanted to share that information with providers. It is a myth, guys, that we cannot be disruptive, that we cannot fill out our own paperwork, that we can, and also, we also have heard, oh, it takes so much time and it's very stressful. Once again, no, I gotta tell you, honestly, speaking in regards to the experiences that I've had here lately, two of the biggest boogerbears that I've heard, oh, don't call them, have turned out to be two of the nicest entities that I've contacted, and that's IRS and Medicare. They are very, 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 very helpful. Today, actually, one of the Medicare representatives called me back. If they tell you they're going to call you back, they do. And the patience that they have, I even at some time, okay, the application process, it took me let me see. I signed my application dated June 28th. So I must have started around that time. I think I started the day before. And one of the things that took a little bit longer was I had to change myself as a authorized official because and if anyone wants to like learn how to do it for themselves, it's not that bad, guys. I promise you. I'll tell you everything I know. Just feel free to comment, follow up with any information in the description box, and I'll definitely tell you. I'm gonna put it all together in the ebook because I asked so many questions along the way. I was like, what is this? Why are we doing this? And then also I definitely saw if you call back 5 times, you just may get 5 different answers. And that doesn't mean that the answers are necessarily wrong, but that means that the experience level varies. One of the things that was a constant conversation with me was I had a personal NPI, and the question was, did I want to start a corporation? No, did I want to be able to bill for Medicare under my personal NPI or under the corporation NPI? I chose to do it under the corporation MPI because just like with locums, if I'm the corporation, I could have other providers. And I have a very, very warm relationship with a lot of nurses. I've even established a educational platform for nurses. It's called Think Med Ed. And I just simply see how if I am a corporation, I can help a lot of nurse practitioners, a lot of PAs. A lot of people are getting their own autonomy. So why not become a corporation so that I can teach one, do one? You guys know the saying. So as opposed to just getting the information for myself, I decided to get the information where I could help more people. But let's dispel some myths. Personally, if you can navigate it with whoever you're working for or whoever you're working with, I personally feel like if you are an independent provider and if you don't mind taking on the responsibility, stay at home with your loved one. My mother right now, she sounds but she's laughing. She's alive. She's just like she's gaining weight, she watched the fireworks. Would she have had that same kind of experience? She didn't have an experience last year when my hands were tied and I couldn't help her. She didn't have that experience the year before, but she had that experience this year. What did it cost me? It costed me money immediately that you will make up in the end. If you are not willing to invest in yourself, why should anyone else? And you're not just investing in yourself, you're investing your time and you are gaining knowledge and you will make that money up once you are credentialed and look at all the patients that you could help. I had no idea. Now, through that one application, I could see people through skilled nursing facilities. I could see people in nursing homes. I could provide care to my mother. I could see people in my building. I could see people in my neighborhood. Even during the application process, sometimes I would go out to lunch and there are local cafeterias. And I was like, hey, I'm applying for my own Medicare. And they were like, oh, once you get insurance, why don't you come down here and pick up some of the people who work around here at the restaurant? There's a women's shelter that's not too far away. Just all the people. So you may immediately, possibly lose money, but you lost money when you were going through your original training and you gained it back later on. You also minimize that third person because you have more knowledge. Now, I'm not saying to just know everything. Of course, I need a biller. I'm not going to know billing, but I am going to take billing classes because there are classes that are available through AMA. But I'm just saying that, medicine is different now. And I just really feel like, as opposed to, they have hospitalist opportunities working from home. We all know about telemedicine working from home. Why don't you have your own telemedicine practice? Build your own patient base. And I think that the main thing that I'm looking forward to by having this PCOS application submitted and going through the 30-day wait is I don't have to necessarily limit how long I talk to a patient because it's up to me. And we all know it takes about 20 minutes before a patient warms up and decides to communicate with you. Let's be honest. During the pandemic, there were a lot of nurses who didn't go through clinicals. The emergency room experience is different than it used to be. The outpatient experience is different than it used to be. Just because someone comes in with a white coat, it could be a PA, it could be a nurse practitioner, we don't really know who we're dealing with. I just had a situation on one of my social media platforms that I go live, and a person was talking about managing newly diagnosed atrial fibrillation. And the first thing I said was, well, you just have new onset AFib. That's kind of random. Did you have any other kind of workup before? And I had never seen this person, and I'm not giving any medical advice. I didn't give that person any medical advice. And I said, I probably would have checked other labs or asked you further questions. The person shared that they went into the emergency room because the original question was, is there any other medication than metoprolol for atrial fibrillation? I'm like, well, I think that there's a whole conversation that we're missing out on here. And as the person spoke a little bit further, I said to the person, not knowing if it's a male, female, not knowing anything, I said, I probably would have looked at your endocrine level. I would have looked at your thyroid, hypothyroid. And the person said that they had hypothyroidism. However, that was not even taken into consideration when they were started on metoprolol. They were sent to a cardiologist. They were set up for a 2D echo. They were put on Eliquis. I was like, has anyone ever heard of Chad score? So all of these things that we may get upset about because they're not being performed because mainstream medicine is so busy. If us as providers who are really not happy with the way that patients are being treated took it upon ourselves to take the time out and take advantage of the resources, such as the people who answer the phone at Medicare that are very patient and very nice, and get our own paperwork and set up our own telemedicine practice in addition to whatever other entities we're working in. We could think about the fact that we feel like patients are not getting the care that they deserve, but we could also know in the back of our mind that that person decided to follow us to our private entity. We could provide them with the care that we feel as if they deserve and that we want to give while we care for ourselves and stop working ourselves just like to the bone, and we could care for our loved ones. As long as I am on this earth, my mother will never see a nursing home and she will never go without care because I have taken my career field and I've looked at how can I be disruptive? How can I dispel all myths? And how can I provide my mother the care that she deserves and still provide patient care? And there are enough entities inpatient who will provide care to the people who are in the hospital. And that was just something that was very exciting. I wanted to share with you guys. And I hope someone got something out of that story. And that's pretty much about it. Enjoy the rest of your evening.